G'day friends, welcome to today's YouTube video. My name is James, this is my YouTube channel. Welcome back to it, or welcome if you are new. Today's video is based off of my curiosity that I had really late last night. I almost woke up and just started filming this video at like 3 o'clock in the morning, I swear. But I waited until this morning. I was up at 6 because I was just too excited. I wanted to explore the idea of what would happen if Tim Burton decided to do Mermaid. So I have this massive coffee table book that Steve, my husband, bought for me for my birthday last year. It's very expensive. I will link it below. I'm not telling you to buy it, but it is incredibly inspirational. And I don't even like, horror or gory subject matter or scary things. But the way that Tim Burton illustrates and plays in his notebooks and his journals and, on scrap pieces of paper, it's just such a childlike sense of wonder and curiosity and imagination that I can fully get behind at any hour of the day. Which is it's just weird. I don't think if you really went and looked through a bunch of my work, you would ever associate it with Tim Burton, unless I've been on one of these benders where I'm just fully playing Tim Burton's style. But I take a lot of that feeling that I get when I look at all of his stuff. I take a lot of that and try to make sure I'm sitting in that space whenever I'm creating. Just because it really reminds me of being a kid and picking up your crayons or picking up your textures and your pencils and just doing whatever you wanted to do whenever you wanted to do it on any piece of paper for any reason. And that's where I think that real joy of playing comes in for me. Don't get me wrong, there's a certain time and a place for everything. Like when I'm learning, I probably, I guess I do learn like that now. I'll try and play as much as I can these days. There's fully Sketchflix episodes on my YouTube channel that only exist so I can watch movies while I'm working. I'm trying to find the most fun way to do everything, I guess, and then the learning is the byproduct of the doing. So that is where I'm at. I wanted to know what would happen if Tim Burton did Mermaid, so I'm going to do 7 days of Mermaid in Tim Burton's style. I'm very closely referencing the pages of the book. You can see them on the screen there. I want you to see what I was seeing so that you can see what I've taken and directly referenced, or what I've interpreted, or if something looks very close to the original, or if something has only parts of the inspiration in there. I will say I did specifically try to stick closer to the reference today because I wanted to know what kind of Tim Burton-y mermaids I could come up with. But typically I would kind of pull less reference because you don't want to get in trouble for copying anything. So, there's a certain point where you have to kind of say, okay, well, I like the colors and I like the textures and maybe I like that pattern, but I can't use any more than that. Otherwise, I'm literally just copying the image. But usually you don't have to worry about that for learning. I know I certainly don't. I take none of this too seriously until I start selling something. Other than that, it's all fair game, to be honest, for me. I know there's a lot of Facebook jails and Instagram jails and, Instagram police that might come after you, but I've never tended to worry about it. For the sake of learning, I mean, who can really tell you what to do when you're learning, right? People can only really tell you what to do when you're selling, which I don't find most people have a problem with in my world. I don't know. I see it. I definitely see it. Don't get me wrong. Don't go and do anything crazy. And then say, James said it was fine. I'm just telling you, in my world, if you've ever seen anything on my Instagram that you like and you want to copy it just to practice and to learn, I always fully encourage that because I would love to think that you don't have an excuse not to play. You know what I mean? Some people I actually find really will make an excuse not to do something, like pull your pencils out. I don't really understand it because I really enjoy it, but to each their own, I guess. This is the third one, so I haven't been really talking through the play-by-play. Oh, one more thing I guess I'll mention. I am actually doing Mermaid on my website. I'm hosting it on my blog, so there's a link in the description below. I'm doing water-soluble graphite merbebes. There's 31, obviously, for each day in May. So I'm actually hosting those over there. There's 5-minute videos to go along with them. You can actually find them in a playlist on my channel as well. They're just unlisted, so you don't see them pop up on my channel, but you can access them from YouTube if you'd like to watch. And Steve and I, or just myself, answer questions every day. So pop over on the blog and ask me a question that I can answer if you want to hear an answer to that. Otherwise, there's a full tutorial if you want to get involved and practice your merbebes as well. It's a play on Mermaid and Moira Rose's babies. So that's where that reference comes from. I know it sounds crazy, but you somehow made it here, so I'm assuming someone in your life is crazy enough to have played your algorithm to find me. This is the fourth one. I think the ones that we've done so far, they're very close to the reference, I would say. I think this one is probably the closest. I had the weirdest struggle with this one. Oh, you know what? No, the fish. The next fish I do is pretty close. I wanted to do the. Yeah, I'll talk about it in a second anyway. This one was difficult because I tend to tighten up and want to make everything neat. And the thing that I like that I'm looking at is that it's all loose and it looks scribbly and scratchy and like you just taken a pen and, run out the ink on the page. But then I go to do it and then I try to fill every white space, which is exactly the opposite of what I should be doing. So sometimes I have to remind myself to calm down and be looser. Because see how beautiful that texture looks on the page? There is actually graphite under that pen. That's why I pulled the pencil out. I wasn't cheating too much. But I think that one, it started making me struggle because I was thinking, oh wait, have I got everything wrong here? Like, am I even approaching the techniques properly? What am I really trying to learn at this point? And then I got a little lost with this one where I actually ended up just straight up copying it. In my head, it had changed a lot, but then when I looked back at it, I thought I did next to nothing except put a crown on it and put a little nose on. I don't even think I did anything more than that. Maybe I changed the colors a little bit. Even then, I kept them very, very close. So this one's I wouldn't say it's a fail, but as far as interpreting what I was seeing on the page and using it as inspiration, I think this was more a direct copy, like a direct reference, which, for my sake, it helps me learn a few things. Like I like the how I've used the blender. Oliver, this cat's gonna try and get in the door now. Sorry if you can hear that. There's a little Tortillon, the little paper blender. See in the bottom corner of the screen there? These are new for me, and I'm really enjoying pushing and smudging all of the graphite into the paper. And it was nice because it was all smushed into the paper. It's a shadow underneath the water. Oh, my voice is going. It's a shadow underneath the watercolor layer, and it's not going to smudge around all of that graphite when I place watercolor on top. So I think it's going to be a really nice way to layer shading underneath watercolor, like tinted kind of watercolor. I don't know. I'm going to try it because I tried it the other day with some ballerinas. I was trying to pretend I was Degas. Could you imagine? Degas does Mermaid. I was trying to do it and I ended up moving all the graphite around. I could use a harder lead and perhaps try and sweep away any of the extra little dust sitting on top. But yeah, I think the smudger actually, the little tortillon might work really well. This one was probably one of the most fun because I'm not always using these crayons. I don't know how I really wanted to say that. I was going to say I'm not good at the crayons. It's not like I'm bad at the crayons either. Like, I don't want you to think I'm just whinging about it. I don't use these often, and they're quite a thick, like the Tim Holtz Distress crayons have a really thick crayon. So you can't get really fine details with them, which is good, but I had to work on a larger scale. And then I used the Caran d'Ache Neo Color 2s. Those are really pretty, and those I could work a little bit more detail in, which I didn't actually need a lot of detail, but yeah, I actually had the most fun doing this one because I was forced by the medium to not be too detailed about it, which is kind of the area I get stuck in sometimes. I used some white gouache and rehydrated it. It's just the Arteza gouache on that tin, and I used that to kind of spread around some of that color. It did get a little murky and muddy, but I really don't think that matters for the style that we were working in today. And I actually really liked it. I really, really liked that. It was fun to push the crayon around and start making it opaque. And it was a nice little mixed media. This is the last one. This is technically the day 7 of Tim Burton doing it and me pretending I'm Tim Burton. Big fan of his work. I don't know if I've said this already. I'm not a huge blood, guts, gore horror fan. But I just love his art. I don't know what it is. I can try to explain it to you as much as I want, but I still think people think, oh, he must maybe he's like part emo or part goth. Really, not since I was 13. But there's something about his work that is just so fantastical and childlike. And I think it has a lot to do with the mediums as well. Like, you can tell he's used watercolor on paper that's not supposed to have watercolor on it, and then he'll grab a crayon and just scribble on something. And that's a whole texture, a whole pattern. And he really doesn't care. And I love that. He does a lot of these drawings straight in ink, which means like no erasing. And then you can see the lines are a little wonky, but he'll just trace over them again. There'll be a double line somewhere. I love the freedom. I love the freedom of his work. And that's a really fun place for me to play in as well. There was about 1 billion more mermaids I could have tried to do and attempt. But I simply wanted to keep this 7 for you today, so I didn't make a 50-hour long video. But I am, like I said, doing Mermaid over on my blog, so if you want more Mermaid content, you can go find it over there, or you could find last year's or the year before. This will be my 3rd year doing it, so we got tons of Mermaid stuff to look at, and I hope you had a good time watching all of this come together. Hope you have a great play if this has made you want to play, and if you go research some Tim Burton stuff, give it a try, because trying to replicate it, I think, will even maybe highlight how particular you might be, because it's really loose, it's really wild, and super fun. Anyway, that's it. That's what if Tim Burton would do Mermaid, well, my version of it anyway. I had a great time doing it. I'll probably go on Instagram Live for the next week and want to do 50,000 more of them, so make sure you catch me over there. And until next time, thank you for watching. Have a great Mermaid Week 2, 2020. I'll see you again real soon. Bye.